Among all the contenders for this position, why should voters choose you?
Look, folks in Missouri are fed up with what feels like a broken Washington, and they're looking for somebody who's ready to change the culture there, to stand up and stop the wasteful spending, to start focusing on small businesses and these small town economies, rather than just the folks on Wall Street that are too big to fail to get these bailouts. And they're ready to get rid of this corrupt culture in Washington that just encourages influence peddling. And I've got a record as Secretary of State of doing those things. I've stood up for consumers, gotten people money back from big financial institutions when the folks in Washington were asleep at the switch, gotten $10 billion back for folks. And we've also focused a lot on small businesses and helped cut costs and red tape for them, $12 million over the past 5 years. And so I think those are the kind of results people are looking for, not somebody who's been in Washington for 14 years and gotten too cozy with the special interests out there.
Thank you. List what you believe are the three most significant issues facing Missouri now. How would you address these issues, and what would the financial and non-financial costs of your actions be?
Well, look, the biggest issue facing Missourians is the economy. We hear it all the time. I've heard it just today on the streets of Kirksville, but in every city it's the same. People are looking for a fair shake. They want the government to focus to the extent that they need to on incentives for small business, because right now, if you're too big to fail, Washington takes care of you, but these small town businesses and others in our community that create jobs don't get taken care of. So folks aren't looking for a bailout, but they are looking for fairness. And that's what they expect out of Washington. So I think that's the number one thing. And so how do you do that? You do things that help small businesses create jobs. Part of that is about creating incentives, get them tax breaks, and other things that show that they're important and that we understand they're the job creators in our economy.
If all politics are local, in what ways would your work in Washington affect the people back in Missouri?
Look, ultimately, they have to decide what their voice wants to be there. In the end, when you elect someone to the Senate, they're your voice in Washington. And to me, that's about having somebody who's got our same common sense values, that doesn't want to waste money, doesn't want the too big to fail guys to keep getting bailed out with our money, has some accountability in this system, and changes the culture of Washington, because I think it's become corrupted by too many lobbyists and too much influence peddling.
What defines a successful senator to you, and provide examples of who you look to for leadership?
Look, there are lots of different folks who have made a mark in the Senate, but it depends on what the topic is. And there are those that cross party lines that do a good job. Mark Warner has done a good job in focusing on small businesses and innovation in our country. Richard Lugar has done a terrific job on the International Affairs Committee. But there are lots of senators who can make a mark. But part of it's about, I think, reaching across party lines, not being these knee-jerk partisans that we're seeing too much of. You know, a lot of people think that there's no common ground. I disagree with that. And here in Missouri, and in my tenure as Secretary of State, I've reached across party lines all the time to get things done. That's how we've been effective in helping small businesses and helping consumers and passing the toughest law to protect seniors and senior investors in the whole country. So I'm about working across party lines to actually solve problems and not getting caught up in these nonsense partisan debates.
Using spiritual and/or philosophical sources, cite a couple passages on life and/or leadership that you feel have shaped your core personality and your approach to politics.
Well, look, there are so many, I can hardly know where to begin, but certainly I grew up in the Baptist church, and so there are a number of passages in the New Testament that, speak to my heart. One of those is in the book of Matthew, where he talks about taking care of the least among us. And that it's a responsibility not just to take care of the important people, but it's important to take care of the least among us as well. And so I think for those in public service, what that means is you can't go out and be cozy with the folks who have the money. You can't just focus on those that are contributing to your campaign, and there are some in Washington that do that. I think that's absolutely wrong, both from a political standpoint, but from a moral standpoint as well.